Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. To follow us on Instagram, go to No Name Music Cast Podcast. To send us an email, it's nonamemusiccast@gmail.com. And to visit our website, go to nonamemusiccast.com. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And Joy and I were just having a chat before we pressed record and play tonight. So this evening, I have got a new phone. I'm an iPhone user, and I've got a 16 Pro Max. Very fancy, very expensive, very fancy. Some dodgy deal with Verizon that probably will cost me a fortune by the time you work out Verizon maths. But that's a story for another time.
The future Tim problem.
Yes. Anyhow, I was saying to Joy, I was so pleased with the way it's set up and that the ringtone automatically transferred over. And as everybody knows, my ringtone is the Knight Rider theme. It will always will be to the end of time. True. It's the only ringtone money can buy or something. I don't know. But it's the one I have. And then Joy and I were talking, isn't it funny how a few years ago, ringtones were a thing. Downloadable ringtones that you'd pay for were a thing. And if you were somebody who had the stock ringtone on your Nokia or your LG phone or your Motorola phone, you would be frowned upon in society. And now everyone has their phone on silent.
I literally said that to Tim. I said, isn't that the irony? Because he started talking to me about how his ringtone switched over. And I said, oh, yeah, when I changed pixels, it was pretty cool how easy it was to sync everything. We were just discussing that. And I said, you know what? And he mentioned his ringtone. And I went, I have no idea what my ringtone is. I can't tell you because my phone's always on silent. And then I think back to when I was younger, and people were paying for ringtones through text messages, and you could put your phone up to the radio and record it depending on what phone you had. And there is some irony in that. It's like we've done a complete 360. I think that it was just the nuance of it, right? Like people just felt like they were part of something when it first started. And now it's like, man, that's old hat. I've had it forever.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going into the Carphone warehouse in Hounslow High Street and paying £5 on my Nokia phone to have the Knight Rider theme tune put on it. Now, the theme tune I have now, it's the actual song. It's an actual sample of the song. It sounds normal. What they called over time real tones. Mm-hmm. But what I had on my Nokia phone was just blips and blops that vaguely sounded like it.
I thought you were going to say it was one of the MIDI files. I had those too.
Yeah, effectively it was a MIDI file, but that's before you had MIDI editors on phones. But
makes sense.
But yeah, it's funny how this 360 has happened where now everybody just has them on silent. I mean, I do not have mine on silent because I like hearing that magical music.
Well, and I also think, and maybe some people are like me, I've said this before, and I think a few people in the Freak Jam know about this story, but I one time had Sex and Candy as my ringtone in high school, and that proceeded to go off at church. And while everyone was quiet praying, Sex and Candy played in the background by Mercy Playground. And so maybe that, that embarrassment and fear in my eyes when my mother looked at me is the reason why I don't have ringtones anymore.
Maybe. I mean, I've had my not over loud Knight Rider theme tune go off at a few inopportune moments. But one thing about the iPhone is they actually give you a physical button to turn it on and off. So it's yes. Very easy to turn it off.
This was my old school. I think it was I don't even know. It was, I think it might have been like a Hawaii, might have been the brand. I can't remember, or Kyocera or something. Mm-hmm. And there was no button. And, the topic of that song was not ideal in a church situation.
Absolutely not. No, maybe it wasn't the most appropriate thing to have.
And then when I was in high school, we stayed after for social studies MAC practice. Yes, I was the person who was on I think it's Quiz Bowl, but we called it MAC. It's the same thing, but I was on the social studies team. Well, my ringtone goes off, and it was the old, I don't know how many people watch this video or if Tim has seen it, but there was an old YouTube video. It was like one of the original ones. And it was like, what made it flash, and it was Cows with Guns.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that in all honesty.
So the song literally is cows with guns, and then it goes through a whole story and ends up about chickens with choppers, and there's a lot of puns in it. And so we're just sitting there studying our social studies Mac, and then my ringtone goes on, and it's just cows with guns, and like, of course, everybody's like, "Okay, that's a choice." I thought it was funny at the time, but if you watch the video, Tim, I actually think you would find it funny because it's kind of your humor in that
Hmm.
sense. But once in high school with your teacher staring at you, who was my coach? It was after hours, so technically I was fine because we weren't allowed to have cell phones out back then. But yeah, so
When I was at school, cell phones weren't even out.
that's because you're 107. We all know this, Tim.
I mean that is true.
Was I wonder if like one day they'll be like if the No Name Music Cast ever goes viral, there'll just be like an ongoing poll. There's a website that people go to. How old is Tim O'Sullivan? And it's just like people voting.
I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I mean, I was looking at some pictures of myself the other day, and I have aged a little bit, Joy, but I think I'm still hanging together pretty good.
You look fabulous, Tim. Fabulous.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, if you'd like, I will do my music news first.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So this is just mostly just probably something fake to put yourself in the news, but I thought it was funny. So Dave Masson of Megadeth is now saying Metallica stole the Inner Sandman riff from another band. Have you seen this yet?
I haven't. I mean, there's only so many guitar riffs in the world. There's only so many ways of spinning those 12 notes. I mean, Dave Mustaine was in Metallica, and that riff might have been knocking about for years before it became a song. I don't know.
Yep. And I mean, for me, I mean, I knew he was in Metallica, but I think now I associate him with Megadeth more. But with that being said, here's what he said. He was speaking as part of the Sean Ryan show, which I don't know what that is, but it doesn't matter. The singer and guitarist claimed that Metallica's biggest hit, Entertainment, was based off a stolen riff from another band. The band in question is the crossover thrash group Excel. Are you
Okay.
familiar with that band, Tim?
They do a lot of formula rock.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. The song allegedly copied in Inner Man is their 1989 track, Tapping into the Emotional Void. Some people have claimed they can hear similarities between the two tracks, not only in the guitar riff, but also in the drum buildup at the beginning. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a drum buildup. It's just a drum buildup, Tim. It's
Yeah, I
not like
mean,
you can change the chords on the drums.
no, it's probably as Bob Ross would say, a happy little accident.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't come for me, internet. I realize you can't change the chord on drums. That was me being sarcastic. That was the point I was trying to make. But yes, you're probably right. Comments arose when we started talking about Metallica in the interview and his departure from the lineup, like Tim said. He said, I made sure never to say that I quit because I wanted people to know that I was unfairly dismissed and that I didn't give I won't say the word he said on our podcast because this is PG.
Yeah, I mean,
See,
it's way after the fact at this point. Enter Sandman is probably 25 plus years old now, 30 years old maybe.
well, the other thing is that comes off. So I've talked about I'm an HR person, and Tim said many interviews for employees. And when I interview an employee and they give me some type of information, and then it's followed up with like a disgruntled situation from a previous employer, which that was his previous employer. Bans are employment for these guys. That never goes well. If I could give you any bit of advice when you interview for a job, don't speak ill of your previous employer.
No, it's terrible. Terrible red flag.
It's a huge red flag. And the thing about it is, you're like, well, maybe they were terrible. It doesn't matter. I will never know if they were or they won't. But it's going to leave a bad taste in your interviewer's mouth because their brain is instantly going to say, well, what's he going to say about us when he leaves here?
Exactly. Well, there we
So,
are. Interviewing tips from the No Name Music Cast.
based off of Dave Mustaine and whether Interstate and Metallica, you never know. I'm just saying, is that not what it sounds like to you, Tim, when you read that, though? I'm not crazy.
It does smell a bit of that, it's fair to say.
Yes. So anyway, that was my bit of music news. And what do you have, Tim?
Okay, so this is something that I found out the other day, and I was like, oh, really?
Okay.
So British pop star Robbie Williams, who is somebody who completely failed to break the US market. He is somebody who I'm not a fan of. I don't like him and I don't like his music at all. Well, I would say the guy who writes all his songs, Guy Chambers, is a very talented songwriter. Robbie Williams, not so much. Anyhow, my prejudices aside, he has a new album out that will do nothing in the US market because he never hit a big hit. Probably be very
Yes.
big in the UK and Europe.
Okay.
He has got a song out, a new song in this album called Rocket. And who does he have playing on this track? Black Sabbath's Tony Iommi, the man who invented heavy metal, the man who is famous for
It's
all those.
playing with Robbie Williams.
Yeah. So the first I found out about this is I followed Tony Iommi on Instagram, and he posted up some still photos from the music video they were shooting.
Oh,
And I
God.
was like, Tony, what are you doing? And I mean, he was very complimentary. I mean, he may know him and they may be friends for all I know. But I looked at the comments on his Instagram post, and it's fair to say my thoughts on this pretty much universally are what everybody else thinks about this.
So for our American fans who are like me are probably going, who the heck is Robbie Williams? I'm familiar with him. Me and Tim even have talked about him on this podcast. My favorite thing, the little gem out there, if you don't know who we're talking about, go look at his version of How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees, and you'll get why this is hilarious. The other thing is I know him from Take That. 90s boy band 101 band, and that would be generally what Americans would know him. Tim, it's from his few little hits with Take That.
Yeah, I mean, there was a very unkind comment at during the time when he was transitioning out to Take That into his solo career, where Liam Gallagher said, "Oh, Robbie Williams, isn't he the fat dancer from Take That?"
Why is that necessary?
I don't know, but that was a famous soundbite at the time.
Oh, I know. I'm saying it's so rude. There was no
Yeah.
reason for it. And I mean, he's just an interesting guy, and he does rub me the wrong way. I'm going to tell you right now, when I see him and the way he interacts with people, he comes off as someone that I would not like.
Yeah, I've always found his cheeky chappy persona very unpleasant. And I don't know. I've never enjoyed him. I've gone on record of saying that I don't enjoy him.
And if you go watch his music videos, they're just everything I've seen about him is cringe.
Yeah, and I knew somebody who was a session drummer. And for 5 minutes, Robbie Williams decided he was going to be Frank Sinatra. And he did a concert or a
course he
series
did.
of concerts at the Albert Hall in London doing standards in the ilk of Frank Sinatra and the like. And the guy I knew was the drummer in the pit on that particular gig. And his comments to me, I mean, this I hadn't even launched into my disdain for the world of Robbie Williams yet. His comments to me he said, that guy was no more talented than anyone else walking outside in the street.
Wow. Now I will say, and I am not afraid to admit, Take That Back for Good is a bop. I love that song. That song
yeah,
plays.
I would agree. That song is pop genius.
It's amazing. But to be fair, I don't know how much he was the, person behind that. I don't know who wrote that song. I don't even know if the band wrote the song. Probably not.
I mean, I honestly doubt it. And as I said, all of Robbie Williams songs are written by Guy Chambers, and Guy Chambers is a renowned songwriter who's written some amazing music. And so some of the songwriting on Robbie Williams's music is good, but it has Robbie Williams on it, and I can't get past that.
The other thing, though, the other song I will say I did like was I like when he did that song with Kylie Minogue, the song Kids. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but I did enjoy
I have
that
heard
song.
that was a big UK hit. And again, my Robbie Williams blinkers were on, and as much as I love Kylie, I couldn't get involved in that.
But yeah, I can't tell you. My favorite thing though, and if you take anything away from this, guys, please go on YouTube and look up his version of How Deep Is Your Love. Just do it. And be like mentally prepared for something you are not expecting.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Robbie Williams is maybe in one of the top 10 reasons I left the UK for the US.
Tim could not hear Angels or Rock DJ one more time.
Oh, crikey. Flipping angels. I mean, that was everywhere. And it's just like, oh, come on.
It was kind of popular. Like it did play, I think, a little bit America, but from what I gathered is Robbie Williams. And then the other thing is he seems to be, and I could be wrong on this, Tim, but like when I started doing my research and learning about him, it's like he was on every TV show in the UK too, like and like hosting things like X Factor, like he's on all like felt like you guys couldn't get away from him.
Yeah, he was incredibly popular, incredibly successful. He had hits, all over the place in the UK. Same in Europe, same in, I think Australia was big there, Canada. He just did not cut the US market. He flopped in the US market. And most people here, if you mention his name, would have no idea who he is.
I know I from an American perspective, I can see why. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I just think it's his cheeky, chappy persona just didn't carry well with US culture.
Yeah, I don't think it works very well. All right. Well, with that being said, Tim, did you have any other music news you wanted to bring up?
No, that was the only thing. But I would say read the comments of the videos because it's not kind.
I will go do that. All right. Well, it is Tim's topic, so I'll let him take it from here.
Okay, so this week's topic, my topic, this is an episode I'm calling The Power of Three.
Okay.
So the idea about this episode, I'm going to be talking about famous three-piece bands, and we're going to be talking about their third single.
Okay.
So three-piece bands and their third single that they released.
That's such a specific thing. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we might do the power of four in the future. I don't know, but we're starting with
Tim's
the power.
opening himself up for ideas.
The power of, well, we could do like the power of 62, and then all it would be KC and the Sunshine Band.
Yes. Or maybe Guns N' Roses.
Maybe. 'Cause, I mean, I think there's about 10 of them in Guns N' Roses at this point.
I just feel like they've had so many members. I don't know. Or the Village People. There's another one. They've had like 74 members at this point.
Yeah, but I'm talking about how many people are performing with them in one.
Oh, and one specific thing. You're right. They are huge. If you go look at the list, well, we talked about it on another episode, so we don't need to get into it, but they're very big. Oh, no. The Miami Sound Machine is quite big. You might be able to add them on the 62 people.
Yeah, and also like Carlos Santana's band where there's 12 percussionists.
There we go. All right. Well, there's the next episode. All right, Tim. Well, let's get on with the power of three.
Okay, so we're starting the episode of The Power of Three, and we're starting with the band The Police. Now, The Police were famously a power trio. You had bass, you had guitar, and then you had drums. And then, of course, Sting playing bass also sang. So it was just the three. A very neat trio. I mean, there was other instruments on recordings, but if you saw them live, it would just be the three of them. And their third single that they released was the track Can't Stand Losing You.
Oh, I don't know what I would have thought it was, but that wouldn't have been what I thought. I mean, I know the song, but I wouldn't have thought that that was their third single. I guess it was the 70s, right?
I mean, it was early 80s. I mean, the interesting thing about taking people's third singles is that most of the people that we're going to discuss tonight, by that time, they'd reached some kind of success. So their third single was an absolutely killer song.
Makes sense. This is a good song. And he says, I can't, like 1,000 times.
There's probably a drinking game. Now, are you aware of the Roxanne drinking game?
No. What is that?
Okay, it's something that's done at weddings, mostly in the UK. It's probably not a US thing.
Got it.
So you go to a wedding and you get two. The DJ will get two groups of people, and they'll have their drinks on the dance floor, and they sit them down on chairs on the dance floor.
Oh no! Someone's gonna knock those right over.
Okay, one of the groups will take a sip when Sting says Roxanne. And then the other group will take a sip when they say, you don't have to turn off the red light. So at the beginning, the Roxanne lot think they're the ones taking all the drinks, and then the turn on the red light people think, oh, I've got this. And then it goes, Roxanne, turn on the red light, Roxanne. And you're like, it's
back and forth.
Hilarity ensues.
You could really do that with Don't Stand So Close to Me, too. He says that like at that. Maybe he just really enjoyed repeating words in his music.
I mean, maybe. I mean, it's that big sort of bombastic chorus affair.
It does kind of fit his like vibe too. You know what I mean? But like, Don't Stand So Close to Me would be a fun one to do that with, because don't stand and then so close to me, like separate the drinking out. But yeah, I hope that those drinks are beer and not liquor, because based off of that, they would be having a rough time by the time the song hits.
Joy, it's the United Kingdom. Who knows what it is? Probably liquor or something.
I mean, I can't say I'm surprised, but it does sound like a fun game, to be honest.
I've seen it done.
There we go. Did you participate?
No, I did not. I viewed from the sidelines.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, I learned something new. I had no idea that existed, Tim.
There we are.
I mean, usually in America, our drinking games are just whatever we think of. We're like, we're gonna watch this show, and every time they say "thee," take a drink. We don't have
I,
like official drinking games.
yeah, I think there's a Knight Rider drinking game, and I forget what the rules are of it, but it's something like that.
Every time you see Kit the car or something, take a shot. I hope it's not take a shot. That would fall out.
Well, you could watch the second part of Mouth of the Snake, and it barely has Kit or Michael Knight in it.
There you go. Well, Tim would be the only one who would know that. So if he were drinking, he'd be like, let's watch this one. No one else would know.
Yeah, let's watch part two of Mouth of the Snake.
And everybody's like, there's no drinking happening. And Tim's like, yes, that was on purpose.
It's because the episode was a backdoor pilot for a TV show that was never released called Code of Vengeance. But, I'm just a fan.
Yeah, just he takes one thing about Tim is everything he's into, he takes it very seriously.
Yeah, I have a narrow things that I like, but the things I like, I really like.
Wow. I mean, that's fair. And at least you know what you like. But yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Tim. I wasn't gonna cut you
Yeah,
off.
but I mean that's just me. That's how I am, Joy.
You're very detail oriented.
I try to be.
And I am not. I am a big picture person. But with that being said, it's a great song. Good choice. I don't know if I would have thought it was their third hit, but it makes sense because it was early on in their career.
Yep.
All right. Well, what's our number power of three?
Next power of three. This is the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Again,
Okay.
guitar, bass, drums. Jimi Hendrix was the lead guitar player, rhythm guitar player, and singer. So he followed all those roles, and it was the three of them. Mm-hmm. And their third single was the song Hey Joe.
Huh. Once again, not what I was expecting you were going to go for. But I think it's cool. Okay, now I see why picking three was great because it's not always like the biggest song, but you're right. They had a little bit of an established following, so people know them. And it's kind of different songs I don't really think about.
Yeah, because I mean, I would maybe think of something like Purple Haze if I was going to pick out a Jimi Hendrix song. But certainly Hey Joe at the beginning of their career, but I said third single that was released.
Well, and I will say that I am not the biggest. Well, we've talked about this. I would not be a super fan of Jimi Hendrix. I am very bare bones when it comes to them. And to be honest, I feel like some of the hype around him is not warranted. But that's a debate for another time. And that is not to insult him. He's no longer here to defend himself. So we'll leave that alone. But I'm just not a huge Jimi Hendrix person.
Me neither. I mean, guitar players will tell you he's the most important thing ever to happen to the electric guitar. Personally speaking, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I mean, sure, he played loud. He played his Strat into a Marshall with a fuzz pedal and made a load of noise and stuff. But it does nothing for me. I can see, for example, how Eddie Van Halen changed the electric guitar landscape. I can see that Chuck Berry is probably the most important guitar player that ever lived. But I don't know. The Jimi Hendrix thing, I don't get it.
See, for me, it comes off of it was cool. It was a cool like moment in time, and I feel like that attracts people, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's interesting. It has character. He stood for a lot of things that were very popular in the 60s and 70s. I get that. And he had like a moment in time that was really cool. So that is kind of, I guess, longstanding history. But I'm with Tim on the fact that I don't know. And I don't know enough about guitars to even answer this, but nothing about it seems like over the top to me. But to be fair, I think that about a lot of things, and there's probably some diehard Jimi Hendrix fans who know something me and Tim are missing.
Yeah, people are very passionate about him. People are very passionate about his music and his influence and how they say that he invented everything that to do with the electric guitar. And if you're into that, that's fine. But as I said, I just don't get it. And I've played guitar my whole life, and I've always been of that opinion. And you say it to other guitar players, and they look at you like you've just, I don't know, poked them in the eye or something.
Tim's been canceled from the guitar community for that one. But back to the song. This is the song he wrote about his wife cheating on him or somebody cheating on him or something.
Well, he didn't write it. It was written by somebody else. But
but that's what it's about.
That's where you're going with that.
Yes. He has a lot of songs that are very intense because I'm pretty sure this song is talking about shooting someone.
Yeah, I'm going down to shoot my old lady. I caught her messing around with another man.
Well, I guess, at least he's going after okay, so I don't advocate violence, but you know what's always interesting to me, Tim, when you hear stories about like celebrities cheating and stuff like that, they're always, or like just in general, people will be mad at the person they cheated with, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, she's a homewrecker. She cheated with my husband. I could care less about that person. You should be mad at your husband.
Yeah,
Your husband's the one in a relationship with you. I've never understood that mentality of being mad at the third wheel. They don't have any relationship with you. Heck, they might not even know they were married. Who cares? Be mad at the one who's actually in a relationship with you. I've
exactly.
never quite gotten that.
Well, it's a very passionate time for everyone
Yeah.
involved, Joy, and people don't always make the most rational decisions at that time.
That's true. They probably just have their anger misplaced. And that happens a lot when you're upset and emotional. But what I was getting at is at least he was focusing his anger on the person who cheated on him in this song and not the other one.
There we go.
But we don't advocate violence regardless. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right, what's number three? Or what's the next number three?
All right, so the next power of three, and it's the third one we're talking about, so it's
Yes.
three cubed or something. This would be the little old band from Texas, ZZ Top, or as they're known in the UK, ZZ Top. Actually, they're not called that; they're called ZZ Top. And their third single that they released was the song "Lagrange."
Oh, well, that's ironic because that's probably the song everybody would know from them. I mean, with have you played Lagrange, Tim? Like,
Yes, I
in
have.
different.
It's a 12 bar type thing, and there's a breakdown in the middle, but it's very straightforward to play. The guitar player in ZZ Top, the Reverend Billy F. Gibbons, who's not really a reverend, and his middle name doesn't have an F in it, but that's beside the point. But he is a very unique guitar player. He's got a very distinctive sound, and he famously has a Gibson Les Paul called Pearly Gates.
No, isn't this song known, or I think it's known for John Lee Hooker's kind of boogie sound or whatever they call it?
It has that kind of feel about it, yes. And
That's
it's
what I thought.
and it's about a house of ill repute.
To be honest, I've never really paid attention to what they're saying in the song. I've heard it 1,000 times. I mean, you could turn on one of the radio stations near us, right, Tim? And it'd probably be playing right now, but I
Oh,
don't know. I've never paid close enough attention. I don't know. I've never been a big ZZ Top fan either, if I'm being completely transparent with you.
I saw them at the Roanoke Civic Center.
And they were terrible.
Well, they were too good. It was 7 or 8 years ago. So I'm at the Roanoke Civic Center. We managed to get really good tickets with 3 or 4 rows from the front. And it sounded really good. However, Billy Gibbons between songs could barely speak. Really, he was croaking. It was worse than me when we tried to record that podcast a few weeks ago.
Got it.
Terrible. Yet when the song started, it was perfect. His vocals sounded fabulous. And what I found out after the fact is that his guitar was live, the drums were live, the bass was live, and they use keyboards on a sequencer. Standard stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of bands will play to a click track in the drummer, and then they play along to a sequencer. Standard thing.
Yeah.
All of his vocals were on the track. So the minute the song started, they shut his vocal mic off, and he was lip syncing all the way through it.
Yeah. What's so interesting about that is Tim said that before on this podcast, but you know what I just picked up on? And I had recently, I just assumed people knew what a click track was. So when me and Tim recorded the song Creep together, we did it to a click track. That's fairly common. It's standard. It just gets everybody on the same page because it's quite hard to record and isolate vocals in the guitar and the drums, right, Tim, and not use a click track to match it all up. That's just
Yeah.
that's standard practice. Well, on TikTok recently, somebody was telling, like, it went viral where an artist was explaining, well, what do you hear in your ears a lot of the time when you're on stage? And they played a click track, right? So that the bands all started at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
if you've got screaming fans, you've got one ear in, you're trying to sing, there's all kinds of noise. You and the band, you need to know when to come in. From a singer perspective, it makes sense. But I was shocked at how many people on TikTok had never heard of a click track, didn't know that's what people were hearing in their ears, and acted like it was the strangest thing they've ever heard. And I mean, what's next? They've never heard of a pitch pipe? Like, I just don't know. I just assumed people knew that, Tim, and I was very wrong.
Yeah, maybe it's just not a common thing that people know. I don't know.
Well, it was surprising to me that it went viral because some of the things people were saying back to it was like, isn't that distracting? Like, how can you focus? And I'm like, I don't know. It threw me for a loop because for me, from my perspective, is I would want the click track because I can tell you one of the hardest things I have when I sing live with an artist, with sing live with like a band or something, Tim, versus just like a recorded backing, is I have a hard time knowing when I should come in. I do. I
Yeah.
naturally do.
And certainly from an editing perspective, if you're recording music and like if you're sharing files, like I haven't done a lot recently, but I have done like the frequency song that we recorded over the lockdown, Kirk
Yeah.
Farmer's album, any of those YouTube videos, like my famous Knight Rider video I put on YouTube,
Yeah.
all of those are done to a click because when you want to come and edit it, everything is in time. And if you want to move a verse from one place to another or a chorus to another place,
Very easy to
everything
do.
fits on the grid. Now, there are some people that say click tracks are soulless because you don't get the feel of a live drummer. And some people, when they record, will not use a click for that reason because the variances in time is what gives it the feeling. But if you're doing home recording or you're swapping files over the internet and stuff, you have to use a click.
And see, and and people were surprised that people were doing that live on stage as well. And I was like, I'm not, because I can think from my perspective, Tim, and I'm not the one usually editing. So of course, Tim's going to think of it from an editing perspective. I'm usually just a person providing vocals, right?
Yeah.
And there have been many times you could play me Steve Miller Band. I've heard 1,000 times before. But if I'm live on stage and Tim starts playing and I'm supposed to know when to sing to come in, without a click track, I'd be completely lost. I just don't have that intuitively. And some of it's a nervousness, and some of it's just like whenever you're like on a stage persona, it's hard to count to four, you know what I mean, in time and know exactly where you're supposed to start. And a lot of times verses sound very similar and choruses, you know what I mean? Like you're repeating the same thing over and over and over throughout the song. And some of the songs just start the actual singing part comes in halfway through a measure and it's very strange. So I just thought that was weird. And so for those of you guys who are listening, I'd be curious to know if you guys knew what a click track was. And if you haven't, go look it up because I mean you can find one on YouTube or whatever and tell us what you think. But I assumed that was standard and most people knew that, but apparently not.
Yeah, I think people when they see musicians perform and they have the in-ear monitors in, they don't realize what's going on in those ears. And certainly most singers and guitar players wouldn't have a click in there if you're playing to a sequencer, but the drummer always will because it will key the timing
Well,
in for
this
everyone.
was just one singer who preferred to have the click track in their ear. Like what I'm saying. They were saying the same thing I'm saying. If I were singing live, I'd want the click track just for my own persona because that's where I struggle. And I imagine for other artists. And sometimes you see where the artist rips it out of their ear, right? Like
Yeah.
because it is getting on their nerves or whatever. Or when I sing, if I have headphones on, Tim, I tend to be the one who puts one headphone off and one headphone in. So I can still hear my own voice, but hear what's happening. But yeah, I just thought it was weird that nobody knew that that was a thing.
There we go.
All right. Well, what's our next? We did not talk about the song at all, but I feel like most people know that song from ZZ Top. I don't think we have to go into any more detail about it. What's our next power of three?
Okay, the next power of three, that would be the band Nirvana. And their biggest single of all time was their third single, and that is Smells Like Teen Spirit.
And that song is so interesting to me because once another band that me and Tim have openly said we're not huge fans of, but we like them. We're just not like the killer fans of the time. It's funny how many times me and Tim will look at each other and be like, "What do you think about them?" I'm like, "Meh," and Tim's like, "I'm kind of the same."
Like I said, I was around when they came out.
yeah,
I was excited about them when they were on heavy rotation on MTV. I remember recording it off the TV and playing it in the music room at school for my friends at school who dismissed it as not being very good. And then 3 months later, it was the biggest thing ever, and they're all wearing Nirvana t-shirts. So I don't know.
Tim, you were like before you're like that kid that's like I knew them before they were cool. You're
Yeah,
that guy.
I knew
But
them
to be
before they were cool, and then I decided it probably wasn't for me.
I mean, I do like their music. I'm just not a super fan. And I will say, I mean, it Smells Like Teen Spirit. I always think of the music video when I think of the song. I always think of, they're in the school with the girls and the all the kind of grunge colors, and you got the students cheering and the girls in the cheerleading outfits, right? And the interesting way. I think that for me was cooler than the actual. I think the music video went so perfectly with that song. And it was early 90s, like Tim was saying. We've got the onset of MTV. Nirvana was on heavy repeat, whatever it really, hit. And so I think for me personally, without the music video, I just don't think it would have sung as well. But the music video for that song specifically was so good. And I don't know how many of you guys know this song, My Chemical Romance Teenagers. There's a song that's called Teenagers by My Chemical Romance, and it's actually my favorite MCR song. And it's a play on Smells Like Teen Spirit in the sense that they redid the music video.
Okay.
So it's talking about teenagers scare the something out of me, like they could care less. It doesn't matter. We don't have to get into the details, but it's talking about teenagers. And in the music video, they have like the same kind of like setup. They've got the girls in the skirts, they got the cheerleaders. They took like a modern day stance on it. And so every time I think of that, my brain instantly goes to the MCR song Teenagers. I prefer that version by far, but it's just kind of iconic. And I really do think that for the short amount of time, obviously Nirvana was around, the music video for that was what made it sell.
Yeah, as I said, it was an incredibly heavy rotation on MTV. And, we had MTV Europe, not MTV US. And it was just on all the time. You could not escape it.
Gosh, now after we get off of this, I need to go listen to Teenagers is one of those songs, Tim, that like I will forget it exists for like 5 minutes, and then I'll go and listen to it once and want to hear it for like the next 6 weeks. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you haven't heard it for 3 years, but then you hear it once and you just want to hear it over and over and over. And a lot of people out there would not say it is their favorite My Chemical Romance song. It's definitely not one of their huge hits. Most people would say like Helena or Welcome to the Black Parade. I'm sure you're familiar with that song, Tim,
Sure.
or you've heard it before. But anyway, there you go. Everybody learned that about me. And so I tend to forget about the original and go straight to MCR. Sorry, Nirvana.
There we go.
I have no idea what that has to do with 3, but that's my story. All right, what's the next song?
Okay, the next power of 3 will be the band Green Day, which of course is a 3-piece band. And the third song that they released was When I Come Around.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought that was their third song either, but it was still one of their most popular.
Yeah, from the very beginning of their career, around the same time Basket Case came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the cusp of that sort of pop punk type thing that they were pioneering at the time.
Now, I do love Green Day, and they're still out there touring and everything. Molly is before Taylor Swift existed, she would have said her favorite band was Green Day. I mean, I distinctly remember all the band posters in her room and we listening to it on repeat in her house if we were hanging out. Sadly, and I don't mean this in a bad way, to Green Day, but Taylor Swift has trumped that now.
Yeah, she's been usurped by Green Day.
But, to each their own. She still listens to him. I could never hear Good Riddance again, and I'd be perfectly fine with that. I could say Good Riddance to that song.
Yeah, I know you said that they play it at school graduations and stuff.
Everywhere.
It didn't have the same cultural cachet that it had in the United States.
Everywhere. But When I Come Around, I mean, that would have been on Dookie's album. So that was probably, for me, that was one of their best albums.
Yeah, American Idiot's good, but yes, Dookie is probably the best one.
I think so because, and I think Basket Case is my favorite Green Day song. It will always be my favorite Green Day song, which is on Dookie. And A Long View is a great one, too. I just don't think you could do any wrong with Green Day in my mind. I think they're a great band.
Yeah, I mean, their longevity speaks to the fact that they are very good.
The other thing is they have I've talked about this before on the podcast, and I think when it comes to longevity with musicians, it's not if they're able to sometimes an example I think of someone who tried this but didn't do a great job of it over time. She did for a little bit, but then it kind of got a little weird as Madonna. Mm-hmm. When they can have so many albums springing over time, and each album has a little bit of a life of its own that's separate of the first one, but they're all still good. Yeah. I think, we've talked about Michael Jackson did that. Elton John did that. I'm just sure we could think of 1,000 other people, but I think Offspring, the band, did a really good job of that. And I think Green Day did too.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So that's my theory on how, if you want to make it long term as a musician, what you need to be able to do. Not saying that's easy, but
You need to evolve, but not revolve.
yes, that's a great way to say it. Like they know who they are as an artist, but also that could just be and Tim, we kind of talked about this on the art on the Saturday Night Fever, like when we
Hmm.
talked about the Saturday Night Fever album or different albums, like Rumors is a great one everybody talks about, is a really good album that's got its own like life separate of the band.
Hmm.
And each album has like a feel to it, a vibe, and they play into it very heavily. Dolly does a good job of that. Like with her most recent album that she did, we loved. Same thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, maybe that's just good music tree. I don't know.
I think that's probably the answer to it.
Well, I probably told everybody things they already know, but that's still my theory on how you do it. And also, I don't know how to do that because I will never be a songwriter. But anyway, all right, what's the next band, Tim?
Okay, so the next band is the band Cream,
Oh, God.
which is a three-piece band from the 60s with Jack Bruce on
Wait, no, you
bass.
said Cream, not Creed.
No, Cream, Cream.
I thought you
Cream.
said Creed, and I was like, oh no. Okay,
You
Creed's very
take me
different.
higher. No, we're
I was
not doing
like,
that.
I can't. I will. I'll be done. All right, Cream. I do love that band. Continue.
Okay.
They were my reaction now. Everybody, wrong band.
Yeah. Sadly, containing Eric Clapton. However, I do like some of the work here, so I'm going to separate the art from the artist to some
I
degree.
like them as a band. I can't help it.
Yeah, he had a lot of fire in his playing. His guitar tone was fantastic. I don't like the man particularly, but the music here is fantastic. And the third single that they released was the song "Strange Brew."
Huh. That's an interesting one. So I've heard that song before. I I will say this is probably a band I probably know more about than people would think, because I really went through a 60s kind of psychedelic thing that I was obsessed with for a very short amount of time.
Hmm.
I wouldn't thought about this song, but I always think it's funny that it's called. So this is so dumb. Tim's gonna laugh at this theory. So the song is about, like, when it's talking about brew, it's talking about like witchcraft, if I remember right. Right? It's like about
I
a
think
witchy
so,
type
yeah.
thing. But I always thought it was funny, like their name, the band's name is Cream, like coffee cream, and then brew, like brewing coffee.
Yeah, I mean, the cool cats would call them the Cream.
Okay. Well, I didn't think they had a the in front of their name. Do they officially?
I don't think so, but there was a thing like the Jefferson Starship, the Cream.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that was. I mean, I always find it funny because, we said Eagles. They hate when you call them the Eagles. They act like
Oh,
the world's coming to an end.
I mean, in fact, you mentioning that on this podcast will probably get shut down.
We'll be getting a copyright, some type of charm. You see me and Tim on the
Don
national
Henley
news.
has a number of his team currently working right now to put us out of business because we said that word in Eagles.
Because this episode will get 32 listens, and that is too many for the insert Eagle.
Exactly.
Do you think that they were trying to just be like, they wanted to be different than the cool bands? Like, I'm different. We don't have a the. Like, what's the point? Because the thing about it is when you're saying it in English, like if I'm saying a sentence about Eagles, you know what I mean, Tim? Like, it's natural to say the Eagles. Come on.
I know, but you're talking about Don Henley, somebody who employs 6 people on his staff to copyright match and pull stuff off YouTube. I mean, let it go, man. Let it go.
Also, you're Don Henley. It's like, sir, is it really worth it at this point? You have enough money and enough time. Calm
Exactly.
down.
Exactly.
It's like I don't know anybody who doesn't know who Don Henley is, Tim. Like, come on, you're very famous. You don't need to do all this.
Exactly.
Also, why do you care? But anyway, all right. Well, with that being said, we didn't talk about the song. Besides, I just thought that it was funny that it's Cream and Brew.
There we are. My favorite Cream song, of course, is I Feel Free. But, there we are.
Sunshine of Your Love.
I mean, and that's good. That the Sunshine in Your Love is identical to Tales of Brave Ulysses as well. They're exactly the
Yeah,
same
that's
song.
true. You're correct on that. But I do love them as a band. I do. I mean, I think a lot of their music is good. I'm trying to think of another song. It was World of Pain's good too.
Yeah, Anyone for Tennis, that's a quirky hit.
Yeah. If you haven't went down that there, I went through a really big, and what sparked it was I got really into reading a lot of books about the '60s hippie movement. I went through like a whole like 3 year period where that's what I was obsessed with doing, and then that led me down all these '60s psychedelic bands and all their drug use and that kind of thing.
There we go.
That's it's funny when you look back though, Tim, and you start reading these books because it started with like a Beatles book, and then I was reading they were talking about like Ashbury Park or whatever that thing is, Ashbury in California, and then they start talking about and like you're like this is so cool, but then when you look at it, 60% of it is just talking about all their drug use. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
it was the 60s, man.
I mean, they did what they wanted, and it did lead to some really good music. What can I say?
Well, there we go.
And Lucy in the Sky and Diamonds, Tim, is about what?
It was a picture that Julian Lennon drew at school.
Still crack up every time I think about this. And what's funny about that, Tim, is when I was going through my weird obsession with like the psychedelic music, I don't know if that was weird. It's just like a period I went through. But anyway, I was still quite young. I was kind of like I was around 13 or 14 years old. I had a Microsoft profile, like you have like your gamer tag. And I used Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds as my gamer tag. Not as a 13 or a 14-year-old would I have ever thought that it stood for LSD. I just liked the song. And looking back, I wonder how many adults I was playing with on these games who thought I was referencing drugs. I've thought about that so many times since we made the joke on the podcast. And I would just love to know, because I'm sure I was playing, you know what I mean? It's video games. I was playing as people of all ages at that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. If you played against me back in the day, my gamer tag had nothing to do with the LSD. All right, what's next, Tim?
Okay, so the next one in the power of three, this is Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Good
Now,
choice.
they were famously a trio. Now, of course, there was other musicians on stage, providing the other instrumentation when they performed, but they were known as a trio of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And the third song that they released was their song Woodstock.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's not a song I think about them often, but I mean, it makes sense. I love Crosby. Why can't I say that? Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Young, I guess, if you want to really get down to it.
Yeah, I chose the just Crosby, Stills, and Nash because this is the power of three, not the power of four.
I know, but I was like, and Young, if we really want to get down to it. But this is a good song. I always find it interesting because I don't think I know they are kind of a religious band of a sense. Like there's a lot of religious indications in their song, but I've never really took it as such. I mean, this song has a thing about child of God or something in it.
No, I mean, they're all spiritual man, and they're doing acid man, and they're seeing things man. But they don't strike me as an overtly religious outfit. Now, I did see Crosby, Stills, and Nash at the Roanoke Civic Center about 12, 13 years ago, something like that. Hannah was very keen to see them.
Okay.
And I'm very glad I did see them because David Crosby is no longer with us. And before we lost David Crosby, he fell out with Graham Nash and said he would never work with him
That's
again.
what I was going to ask. Was it the original members? That was my next question.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
And they
that's
performed all
cool.
their hits. It was absolutely fantastic. It was a real once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah.
Something that will never, ever be repeated, obviously. But yeah, I was very pleased. I saw them in Roanoke at the Civic Center.
Because they were one of those bands that said they would never play again unless Blank Help froze over us. Me and Tim have talked
Yeah,
about
but
it.
somehow they made it work for that tour. But sometime
Oh.
after that tour, David Crosby and Graham Nash fell out. And they interviewed David Crosby. They said, "What's the deal with Graham Nash?" And he says, "I can't talk about what he did, but he can tell you."
Oh, those bands and their egos, man. You never know what's going to come out of it. I mean, I will say this song, Teach Your Children, randomly pops up in my head and I can't get it out for like 70 years. It's an earworm for me for sure. If I hear that song, I will be singing it for next 27 years.
I mean, it's good. It's good music.
It has I mean, obviously that song's a very folksy sound, and they obviously were kind of a folksy band, but just like that kind of da 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 da, it's so like it's an earworm. I don't know how else to say it. It really the flow of that song makes it like the perfect earworm.
There we go.
Yep. All right. Well, what's our next power of three?
Okay, so this is Motorhead. The band Motorhead, famously fronted by Lemmy. Mr. Ian Kilminster, or Lemmy as he is known by his stage name. Um, it wasn't Ace of Spades, the third hit. Their third single that they released was Louie Louie, which is actually a cover.
I've heard their version, but I wouldn't have. I mean, how popular of a hit was it?
I mean, let's see how many listens it has on the Spotify. That would tell you.
I'm just
Um,
curious.
let's have a look. Popular Seymour. It's not in the top 10.
Well, I mean, I have heard it before. I don't know how I feel about it, but I've heard it. Their versions, I mean, that song is also, I feel like, been covered by like three other bands too.
Yeah, actually, here we go. 12 million listens on the Spotify.
That's not bad. What is comparatively, if you were gonna, their biggest hit? How many has their biggest hit gotten?
The Ace of Spades has 510 million, half a billion listens.
Yeah, that's a little different. You know what's crazy to me, Tim? When you see a visual, and I know you've seen them before, but when you see like a visual that explains to you how different a million from a billion to a trillion is, because we can't conceptualize that in our brain. We kind of think, at least for me, I think from 100,000 to a million is probably similar from a million to a billion, but it really isn't. And if you visually see it, have you seen like the little graphs where they're like trying to show you like this is a million and this is a billion and it's like 17,000 times or whatever crazy number? I know that's not right. That's the it's one of those things kind of like light years. That's a crazy concept to me.
Yeah, because a billion is 1,000 million.
Yeah, but it's like unless I see that visually, I don't understand that.
There's a lot of zeros going on there, Joy.
I'll probably never see that money either. Maybe that just comes down to me not being a millionaire, a billionaire, or a trillionaire. I'm barely a hundredaire at best.
I tell you, Joy, home ownership will do that for you.
and and I mean, for about 2 days until I pay all my bills, you could categorize me as a thousandaire. But that's gone in about 2 days. Then it's back down to the hundreds. Heck, there's some times of the week where it's not even 100. Oh man.
I mean, I feel it. I mean, my checking or my savings account is actually quite flush at the moment. But guess what? I need to pay for a floor to be installed, someone to come around to install a bathroom vanity. I need a door replaced, and there's something else. And it's like, there you go, it's all gone.
It's gone. Yay. It's always something that just pops up. And then if it's not your house, it's your car.
Oh,
Or if it's
absolutely.
not your car, it's my dog. It's something. Or it's me deciding to fall and need stitches.
It's one thing after another.
Or if you're like Tim and you see a car try to back into me when I'm not doing anything, I'm just an innocent bystander.
I witnessed that with my own eyes.
All right. Well, what is our next power of three?
Okay, the next power of three would be Buddy Holly and the Crickets, which was a famous early three-piece rock and roll band. And their third single was the song Maybe Baby.
Oh, okay. Now, Buddy Holly is one of those bands that the documentary on Buddy Holly's life is amazing. I can't
Yes.
even remember what the name is, but the famous one is like one of the best. Like, and it's kind of like a docu. It's like it's a documentary, but they theatricalize it or whatever. But it's so good, Tim.
Yeah, the famous one is called the Buddy Holly Story, and Buddy Holly, the person Buddy Holly is played by Gary Busey. Now, Gary Busey in recent years is known for his post-head injury, Gary Busey, where he had a motorcycle accident, he had a traumatic brain injury, and it changed his personality significantly. And to some degree, he's seen as some kind of joke type character, which is unfair because he did have a traumatic brain injury. But prior to that, he was in the Buddy Holly Story. He played Buddy Holly.
Great.
Yep, and he sang all the songs, and it's fantastic.
Traumatic brain injuries, TBIs, are the weirdest thing. Have you seen some of the things that could happen? Like one a friend of mine was talking about, and I won't name specifics because it's not fair, but when she was in the process of getting married, her I don't know who it was, but it was kind of like the person over setting up her wedding, right?
A wedding planner, I believe, is the person you're looking for.
I think she just happened to be a friend who was doing the planning. I don't think she's technically a wedding planner, but you get the idea. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what she was doing. She had a bad accident. It caused her to have like a stroke or an aneurysm or something as a like repercussion, and of course that led to a TBI. She started speaking Italian. She's never spoke Italian a day in her life, Tim. How weird is that?
Yeah, it's very bizarre. I mean, I know people who've had TBIs, and mostly it was just a huge personality change, and those people involved were doing things that they'd never normally do. But yes, I've heard of people waking up one day speaking in different accents and stuff like that. It is very bizarre.
Well, she was speaking like whole sentences in Italian, and they're like, and everybody around her was like, just never, you know what I mean? I've never seen her, heard her, know how she would know Italian. And so of course, I go down to Google and that does happen. If you guys have never looked into some of those stories, it's just really weird.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's very odd what can happen.
well, there you go. Our brains are a mystery. And that's actually true. If you look into the science of it, our brains are a mystery even to the smartest people.
Yeah, I mean, we know some things, but some things we don't.
It's like space, Tim. We kind of get it, but we kind of don't. Oh,
Yes.
here's a question for you, Tim. Speaking of things we kind of know, but we don't know. How do you feel about the concept? So I'm assuming you saw the claim that there are aliens on the seafloor. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I can believe that. I mean, we know more about space than what we know is at the sea floor.
Hold on, let me Google this for you because supposedly our government admitted there were aliens on the seafloor. But I didn't go down that road because, to be honest, I don't really care. Like, I don't care if there are aliens on the seafloor. So, the Baltic Sea anomaly is a feature visible from Indeseek sonar images taken by Peter Lindberg, Dennis something, and the Swedish Ocean X diving team. And they were on the floor of the Baltic Sea, and like it became famous because the sonar was like picking up on pictures, and then it kind of caught on. And there's been a few different things where now, and I haven't went down too far from that, where they're saying that there are UFOs or aliens in the bottom of the ocean. And to be completely honest with you, I believe in aliens in space, so I don't know why it wouldn't be that weird that they'd be in the bottom of the why it's that weird to us they'd be in the bottom of the ocean. And the ocean is one of those things that I don't think we should be messing around in.
No, I mean, I don't like getting on boats because it makes me seasick. But yes, there is a lot of mystery deep in the sea.
Let's just leave it there. We don't need it. We don't need it. Leave those fishes and those aliens and let them be.
There we are.
Am I wrong? Like, why? It's kind of like whenever I see those, like, we went through that episode where we talked about the people going to the Antarctic, like on like the going over that big passageway that I was telling you about. And it's supposed to be really choppy and some people die. And then, like, I was like, for what reason? We're already there. The Antarctic is already melting. Why do people need to go there?
Yeah, why are we messing with this?
Leave it alone. Leave those penguins alone. They've never done anything to you.
Teacher, leave those penguins alone.
Good reference. All right. Well, Tim, how much time do we have left?
We have time for one more.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, the last power of three will be the Stray Cats, which is a three-piece rockabilly band fronted by Brian Setzer, who plays guitar and sings. And this will be their song that even you'd be familiar with, Stray Cat Strut.
That's the only song I'm familiar with from them, so I'm glad that's the one you picked. Like, I knew they were a band, but I'm not really. I think of them as, I mean, most people might not say this, but I think of them as one-hit wonders.
Well, I mean, they had the song Rock This Town. I mean,
Oh, they did have that song. You're right. Maybe two-hit wonders. Is that the term? If you guys just heard a ding, so Ted doesn't have to edit it out. That was my computer. It just got a pop up. But with that being said, I always have an interesting memory about this because obviously the whole thing was they're giving, that rockabilly 50s vibe. That's what they're going for. Is there was this Disney Channel original movie, and it was called Alley Cat Strike. And on Alley Cat Strike, these kids were obsessed with bowling, which is a big 1950s-esque, you know what I mean, type thing. And they all dressed in very 1950s clothing, very similar to the three cat strut kind of thing.
Hmm.
And that song specifically plays at the end of that movie when, so one member of this little group that always went to the bowling alley, she was never able to bowl. She was a bad bowler, but she just wanted to hang out with the people who were good at bowling. That was known. Well, something happened and all the real members of the bowling team couldn't, for some reason, everybody else couldn't do this. She had to be the one to bowl. And that was like the iconic moment because she can't bowl. And she does this weird geometric thing that it sold it that she somehow made it work to like get like a two, you know, you hit both and it goes over and hits the other one or whatever, which was probably all BS. And someone who actually knows about bowling was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You know what I mean? When they do that in movies, Tim, but if you don't know, it's like, oh, that's cool. And this is the song that was playing. That's what I think of when I think of this song. I think of that movie and then I think about this song.
Makes me think of Flagger Hill because it's a song we played in Flagger Hill. That's what it makes me think of.
My story was a lot more. I hope somebody I know Brandy, if she's listening, will remember to that movie. So for those, I don't know that this is if this is probably just an American experience. I don't know how much this transcended outside of America. But when I was younger, we would have Disney Channel original movies. And every week or so, or every 2 weeks on like a Friday or Saturday, they would have a Disney Channel original movie. And they were always ridiculous. Like one of them was called like Double Team, and that was about these two girls who were volleyball players that were twins and they had to move to a new school, but they didn't have a volleyball team, so now they have to play basketball. And it was based on like a real story. There was one about like model behavior. There's one about, and there's one I can't remember what it's called, but the two sisters like switch places kind of close to Freaky Friday, which wasn't originally a Disney Channel movie, but then they did the Lindsay Lohan movie and made it a Disney Channel original version. But that one was about like these two sisters who switch places and they're completely opposite personalities and they all come together and now they care about each other. But what was the interesting thing that Disney would do is they would market it so well because every building up to the movie, they would have the behind the scenes on their commercials. They would have like people talking about it. They'd have artists coming in and saying, I'm doing the song for this. And it would be some Britney Spears, right, is doing the song for this movie. And the marketing was, I mean, it's Disney, but these really, if you look at them now, lame movies were so cool because of the way they did it. And anybody who's close to my age knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like, we will still joke about these Disney Channel originals to this day.
There we go.
Tim's like, I have no reference point for any of this, but I'm going to take Joy's word for it.
Absolutely.
Did you not know that Disney did that at all, Tim?
I've never seen Disney Channel.
You've never seen it at all?
No, I mean, it was not a thing growing up. We got satellite TV in England. At some point, there was like a UK Disney Channel, but it was like you had to pay for it. So we didn't have it. And I've never really had any interest in watching anything Disney Channel, so I've never watched it.
I have an episode brewing. I'm going to force Tim to listen to some albums from the Disney Channel original movie. Tim's like, I regret everything. Let's get back to the show. But yeah, no, it was just interesting the way they were able to do that so well, though. But I mean, that's also why everybody who was in Disney TV, like their TV shows, think like Miley Cyrus or any of those people. Miranda Cosgrove was on Nickelodeon, same deal, whatever. They always tried to make them into the triple threat. And sometimes they weren't great singers, but they always pushed that. And so it was just Disney's marketing, because I was watching a thing and Disney would own that record, right? On top of having you on their show, and they wouldn't let them get out of those. That's why Miley had to rebel so hard to get out of that, because Disney holds them hostage. It holds their music, it holds their acting, their dancing. Like once they got them, they had them for all three.
There we go.
Oh my God, we're going to get sued from Don Henley and Disney now. Please don't come at me. And it's all alleged. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes.
Is that what you have to say, Tim? Allegedly. This is all alleged. All right. Well, what would you like to leave the people with?
I just say be kind to everyone that you meet.
I agree. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
To find the another day to love.